right outside, so come on in, don't be shy. We've got ghosts and UFOs. Brace yourself, get ready for the show. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Oh, tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Have you heard tell of a demon next door? Or maybe a cryptid on the lake shore? There's nothing too strange for us here, so if you're ready, stamp out your fear. Don't be afraid of the dark, the fun's about to start. Nightmares or tales will inspire. Tonight at the Scaredy Campfire. Whoa, whoa.
Welcome back, campers, to episode 46 of the Scaredy Campfires. Tonight we turn our attention to the quiet moments, the ones where nothing should happen, yet something still does, when the air stills and the world holds its breath. That's when the unseen draws closest, so settle in. Some stories don't whisper for long before they start to crawl. Tonight's story comes from Reddit user u/Olympic Salad Tosser, who shares a chilling wintertime experience at the historic and notoriously haunted White Inn in upstate New York. From unexplained phone calls to swinging chandeliers, their visit reveals the lingering echoes of a tragic past. A long while back, years at this point, I was headed out to visit some friends in upstate New York, and of course, it would be when my train left that a massive winter storm had started to envelop the Midwest. When I boarded the train, the air was heavy with flurries, and when I stepped off in Erie, PA, a northeastern was swallowing the northeast US. I was there for quite a while, and it seemed as though it must have gone on for weeks. In fact, I left to head to Providence, RI, to see another friend for a week. I was surprised to find that there the weather was pretty mild. It was chilly but not harsh. There were occasional light flurries, and I woke up one morning to a shallow layer of fine baby powder snow. But when I had returned to Buffalo, it seemed everything was still choked with winter's fury. My cab driver, who was taking me from Buffalo to Fredonia, where this happened, spent the entire drive lamenting how this was nothing. When he was younger, he experienced a snowstorm that swallowed people's houses whole. They had to drive snowmobiles from chimney to chimney, and that was how they carried out rescue efforts. The year of never-ending winter, he called it. I forget why I started going to work with my friend. Maybe it was that the house was cold at night. Maybe it was that I was there to visit him and spending the night snowed into a trailer in Bemos Point wasn't as exciting as a supposedly haunted and historic hotel. He worked as the night shift receptionist at the White Inn. During the summertime, it was often booked because of its rustic, cottagesque rooms. The wallpaper, furniture, and creak in the wooden floorboards would have reminded you of your grandmother's old house. But in the wintertime, especially in this snowstorm, I think we only had a single guest. This worked out well because it gave us a lot of time to explore the inn together. My friend loved this place and he loved the paranormal. He seemed to really enjoy taking me on a tour into the building's old bones and on up to the presidential suite. Along the way, telling me about the building's history and the experiences guests have had. He mentioned that one night he was working alone, as per usual, and he would keep getting rings at the reception desk. Off to the side of the reception area, there was a small lounge where we would sit and listen to the wind howl outside. The night this story took place was no different. The phone would ring and he'd go and check to see if there's ins only guest needed something in the middle of the night. He'd pick up the phone and there'd be nothing, just silence on the other end. So heavy it seemed as though any moment a voice might come through and cause the deafening abyss to collapse in on itself. Still, it would hang there, a bulldozer suspended from a spider's web, till after a few seconds my friend nonchalantly hang up. This was a fairly routine experience for him. Sometimes he'd return to the lounge, and the moment he'd resume drawing in his sketchbook, the night would again demand his attention with more ringing, only to reward his attentiveness with yet more silence. In the morning, the guest would check out early. He was a frequent customer, familiar with the inn and its history. He asked my friend if a pipe broke in the middle of the night, and my friend responded with a "No, why do you ask?" The guest had said, "There was a banging in the room above me all night." Then the sound as though heavy furniture was being pushed across the wooden floor. The room above him was the presidential suite. As I mentioned, he would tell me stories while taking me on tours of the place and sharing its history. I want to say that at one point the White Inn might have served as a hospital or clinic, but last I tried to verify this, I couldn't find anything. However, after its first construction, the original house that was built caught fire. As we'd make our way through the frigid basement, though, you could see a change in foundation, marking changes in the inn's history. I try to remain objective when it comes to my own experiences or the stories of others, open-minded but with a healthy amount of skepticism. At one point in the inn's history, and during its most grisly affair, it was a social club. People would gather to dance through the night in the ballroom. It was here that I kept thinking as though I was seeing this electric ball of light, big zigzagging around out of the corner of my eye. I would choose not to form a conclusion on this, however, because to me it seemed just as likely that it could have been an ocular anomaly. I have a habit of rubbing my eyes by pressing my thumb into them, near my tear ducts. I might have done this without being aware. When we entered the ballroom, the heat coming from the radiators smelled hot and stale, as it might in an old house. In 1968, the then owner of the White Inn, Jack, was found dead. In the room next to his body, his wife Helen was found also deceased, her skull bashed in with a book end. The story goes that Jack was suffering from depression and after killing his wife, finished the task on himself. Of course, this happened in room 272, the presidential suite. It is in 272 that I believe I had what might my second but perhaps less undeniable experience. To give an idea of when this happened, GhostTube on YouTube was barely a thing. The Apple iPad was about to debut. We hadn't really transitioned over to smartphones as we have them today, and Taps was still on TV. So room 272, my friend and I sat on the edge of the bed. Just as I'd seen on TV, I started trying to provoke whatever might be there, sometimes asking questions, sometimes talking shit. I had something similar to a Palm Pilot, a personal handheld computer, similar to a BlackBerry, but not a phone. I don't think I captured anything on its recording, but while we sat there, I thought I smelled a faint scent of smoke, which, similar to earlier, might have come from the heating, though it is said people might experience the smell of Jack's cigars. In the center of the room was a large chandelier, and what I felt was more convincing was that it had started swinging. Not a gentle back and forth, but similar to someone pushing on it from one side. I wouldn't be completely honest if I omitted another detail. If I remember correctly, there are trains that pass nearby, and it is possible that the rumbling from the train might have contributed, but I don't recall there being a train at the time, and I didn't get anything on my recording. Aside from that, there was one final bit of eeriness. Though this is more of a vibes thing, after my cab driver dropped me off at the inn, I wanted to take a shower. I'd sat on a train for the better part of 2 days and I needed to freshen up, so my friend had let me borrow a room, under the condition that I clean up after myself, which I did. It could just be that the room was cold and I had gone from a hot car to cold walking up the front steps, to hot lobby 1 to cold room, all while layered under a heavy winter coat, a hoodie and a t-shirt. This was probably the first time in a couple of days that I was able to shed the extra layers. The cold air on my skin might have tingled and felt weird, but I remember feeling watched, and while I relaxed under the steamy shower head, I thought I felt hands lightly tracing their nails down one side of my back. Since then, the White Inn had changed ownership more than a couple times, I believe. Some owners seemed to embrace its reputation, while others seemed to want to distance from the inn from being haunted. My friend has long since quit working there, and we've lost track of each other. At one point, it closed and remained closed for quite a while. But at the end of last year, I saw a headline that said it was saved by the locals. Though years have passed and ownership has changed, the White Inn still holds the weight of its history and the restless spirits set to roam its halls. For the user, this eerie night in room 272 remains an unforgettable reminder that some places never truly let go. Tonight's second story comes from Reddit user u/glum introduction 755, who thought their quiet 20-year-old home was just another ordinary house until the sounds started. Subtle at first, too subtle for anyone else to notice, then unmistakably deliberate. My house is only about 20 years old and I'm only the second owner. We've lived here about 16 years. I don't know anything about the previous owners. My first odd experience was a year or two after we moved in. Everyone in the house, my wife and I and our 2 cats, was downstairs sitting on the couch. I heard very clearly a loud bang that sounded like someone stomped hard on the floor of our bedroom, which was directly above us. Weird, also weird was that nobody else heard it. My wife didn't take her eyes off the TV, and the cats didn't react at all. About a month later, I was in the garage late at night when something hit the garage door hard. Admittedly, that could have been anything, but it's abnormal. Our neighborhood is pretty quiet. Years passed, my daughter was born. Another night on the couch, loud bang on the wall to my back, which faces the backyard. Everyone heard that one. Vindication for me. Yay. When my daughter was about 5, I had a day off in the middle of the week. I was lazing on the couch, watching my laptop, and I saw in my peripheral vision my little girl stick her head out from behind the wall that separates the stairs from the living room. I smiled and she giggled and pulled back behind the wall. Wait a minute, it's Wednesday. She's in school right now. What the fuck? I got up and searched the whole house top to bottom. I even searched the attic, found nothing. Years pass and the occasional noise. Daughter sometimes mentions seeing shadows in her bedroom window, which is on the 2nd floor. Nothing too scary, no real story. Tonight, everyone in the house was in the kitchen, cats and all but my wife, upstairs in our bedroom. She comes in and asks, "Did anyone just knock on the bathroom door?" Nope. I asked her what it sounded like. Like someone was knocking on the door, idiot. She said it was 3 distinct knocks. I smiled. That wasn't the right answer. She made me search the house, even the attic. To this day, The knocks, shadows, and footsteps still surface, just often enough to remind the family that they're not as alone as they thought, and whatever shares that house with them, it hasn't left yet. And that closes episode 46, campers. If the silence around you suddenly feels a little heavier, trust your instincts. Stillness is rarely empty. Until next time, keep your eyes sharp, your fire bright, and your back to the light.
As the night gets longer and the darkness creeps in, with the eerie silence broken only by whispering wind, come gather round the fire, the flickering flames, and hear the tales of the spooky and strange. A chill up your back, a shiver up your spine. You'll be haunted by the things that you find. Legends will unfold and stories will be told at a scary campfire, for only